Hello and welcome back to the part 3 of this short series course where we are discussing and we are building a drag and drop game with React-beautiful-dnd and ContextAPI. This short course or short series is brought to you by Concrete. You can follow us on all our social media handles and get more updates about more courses or short courses that will bring your way. So in the first part of this particular course, and we've done something beautiful even in the second part. Now I'm going to run our React application again, so I'm going to say npm start. Alright, so let's wait for what that will look like in the browser. Alright, so now this is what we've done in the second part of the application and it's running well. Now it's time for us to start adding drag and drop functionalities on this particular element right here. So how do we do this? Now remember, we've already installed the react-beautiful-dnd package, so it's very easy for us to go directly into our source components and pages folder, and then we can come to the home file and we can import something like this from react-beautiful-dnd. We can import, there are three things we need the drag drop context, we need the droppable, and then we need the draggable. Alright, those are just the three things we need right now. Alright, those are the three things we need right now. But this droppable, the droppable that React-dnd provided from their package is having a little bit of issue with React 18. So this is why we are not going to be using droppable from the package itself. We are going to be using droppable from a code, that a snippet that I've already written by myself, but this snippet is provided as a useful tip, a useful snippet from one of the professionals out there who have studied how React-beautiful-dnd behaves with Typescript and React 18. Alright, now this snippet is going to be part of our GitHub repo, so you can go and copy it there, or you can just pause this video right here and start writing this. Create a file called droppable strict and write all of this. It's very short. Don't worry about all of this comments right here. It's just credit to the person who created this snippet. All right, and you can write this out, and then after you are done, you can play the video so we can continue. Okay, or you can go to our GitHub repo and copy this. All right, you are going to have the link to our GitHub repo is going to be pasted in the description of the video. Okay, so instead of bringing droppable from React-beautiful-dnd, we are going to bring droppable from our own code snippets, and that's going to be droppable strict. Okay, so we're going to do droppable strict here. Okay, now those are the three things we need to add full drag and drop functionality to our apps. Now before we start, what I want to do is I want to convert all of these things into components, the column, the tasks, right? The column and the task, I want to convert them to components on their own. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new page right here. I'm going to call it column, right, .tss. All right, then I'm going to do very quickly import React. Let's just do import React from React. I'm going to destructure use effects. I'm going to destructure use states. At least those two things are very needed. Then I'm going to do constant column because use effects. Right, it's important. If you are using use effects, just create that function right there. Then I'm going to return. This is a functional component, of course. I'm going to return this. All right, so what I'm going to do here is go back here and then copy all the first column, the very first column. I'm going to copy all that and paste it here. Now, since this is a component, we want to use this as a component, so we must define the properties of the component, right, to make it a lot dynamic. So if you look at a particular column right here, it does have a list of tasks, and then it does have it does have a task heading right here. So what we are going to do is, let's go to our utils folder under types, and then we are going to export another interface. Right, again, this is Typescript, so we're going to export another interface. Now, interfaces are a way of defining your own types in Typescript, and then you can use that type to do pretty much anything in your Typescript project. All right, so we are doing the same in React right now. So the type I want to use here basically is the column type. The reason why I'm hiding hi as a naming convention is I want to know what I'm dealing with when I'm using the interface. So hi here represents interface. All right, so for this interface, for the column interface, I'm going to be having the title of the column. Title is going to be string. It's going to be a string. All right, then there's going to be tasks, right, which is going to be an array of I tasks, right? That is, a column can have multiple tasks, which is, an instance of a particular task. So a particular task will have the title of the task, or let's call it title, or it's supposed to be description actually, right? It's supposed to be description, but let's call it title, and it's going to be string. Now each column will have their own ID. All right, so that's very important for us to actualize our what do you call it, our drag and drop feature. All right, and then each task also will have an ID. Okay, so basically these are the things we need right here. Now I'm going to come here and I'm going to put curly braces here, just like I want to destructure. Then I'm going to destructure from partial. I'm going to call I column right here. All right, now you can import I column from your types util, right, and destructure it and then use it this way. The reason why I'm using partial here is it is very possible for me not to pass any of these properties in the column component, right? I don't want Typescript to complain. That's why I'm using partial. So Typescript will know that I might as well pass in some of the properties or none of the properties. All right, so I'm going to bring in ID. I'm going to bring in ID. I'm going to bring in title, and I'm going to bring in tasks. All right, I'm going to destructure all of them from this interface right here. So which means I can come here and put title. Sorry, I can render title here. And then with the list of tasks, I can do some very nice things right here. Okay, so with that done, let's see what we have right here. So what I can do is, instead of having all this HTML here, I can just delete this and then put my column. So what I have to do is import the column component here. So I'm going to bring in the column components. All right, column. Why is it because I've not started using it. All right, so I'm going to say column, then I'm going to say the title. It's having some issue. Oh, I have not exported, so I'm supposed to add export default column right here. Right, if I do that, there's supposed to be, the error is supposed to clear off, so I can put in title here. The title is to do. Alright, then I can copy this and paste, and this will be in progress, and then this will be done. Alright, now with that done, you can see that all of our columns now have tasks. That's because in the column component, we are rendering a list of tasks, and we are using the same column component for all of the columns. All right, so before I clear out all of this task here, the first thing I want to do is to create a component for this task right here. So I'm going to you know what, I'm just going to duplicate the column component. I'm going to call it task.tsx. First thing, I'm going to collapse this, collapse this, and I'm going to type task, and then I'm going to put task here too, and then instead of I column, it's going to be I task. All right, you can just import it or destructure it from your utils, and this is going to be ID and title. Okay, and for the task, I'm just going to cut out this, and then I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to paste what I cut, right, and then I'm going to render the title here. Okay, I'm going to render the title here. All right, now with that done, what we're going to have here is this. We're going to come here and bring we're going to import our task component. So what I'm trying to achieve here is to turn the column and the task into components. All right, so and then I'm going to do task. Okay, so task has an ID is equals to 1, so let's just do 1, and then it has a title. Let's just call it title for now. All right, so for this title, I'm just going to do clean out the garbage. So I'm going to just copy this 3 more times, and then I'm going to copy all of this. Say study for exams. This is going to be task 2. The next one is watch a movie by Friday. That's going to be task 3. All right, and then the last one is visit family in hometown. That's going to be task 4. Or we can say it's 0, 1 if you want to index it like an array, 2, 3. All right, because that's how it's going to be rendered normally. Okay, so with this done, we still have a list of our tasks here. Now what I want to do is instead of having to do this right here, what I want to do basically is to pass a list of tasks from here, and then it will get rendered automatically here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, we're going to put a logic here. We're going to say if tasks dot length, let's do if tasks, and so I think it's important for us to remove this partial, because that will mean that we have to start checking if all properties we're importing here is available or not, right? So if I remove that partial, I'll have to specify tasks here, so which is important, so I'll have to do that here. So empty tasks for all the columns. All right, why is it complaining? It say, oh, ID is missing, so ID 1 and ID 2 ID is 3, or let's index it like I said, like an array 0 1 2. Okay, so that will not complain anymore. The quick thing I want to do is, for this ID, instead of string alone, I want to make it string or number. All right, I want to make it string or number, so it can take both number and strings. Okay, with that done, then it's going to be easy for me to go to the column component here and then say, oh, tasks.length. Task.length is greater than 0. If it's greater than 0, then what I want to do is I want to do tasks.map. Tasks.map. Then of course you should have understand what map means in JavaScript, right? So I'm going to do task index, and then I'm going to do something like this. So what I want to do is I'm going to use a return statement here. So I'm going to do return task, return our task component, but put task.id here and put task.title here. Okay, that should work. All right, now with that done, what I want to do is I want to clear out all of this, but before I clear it out, I want to come here and pass in all of those tags here. So this is what I'm going to do. ID is 0, title is this, and I'm going to kind of duplicate this like 3 more times. All right, then I'm going to come here and start copying this out. So clean out my garbage. Don't worry, this data is going to be dynamic later. So but for now, just for us to understand what we are doing and render it properly before we start doing all the dynamic and magician stuff. Right, let's get this working first. All right, so I'm going to close this out. All right, I'm going to close that out. So the condition we put here is it is only when task there's a list of tasks. That's when tasks should be rendered here. If there's no list of tasks should not be rendered. All right, so what I also want to do here is I want to pass in a key, because when you are rendering a list of things in React, you have to make sure that you pass in a key for each child of the list for React to properly render that list on your page, right? You can read up on that later. Okay, so with that done, what I want to do is, now let's go back and look at our web page. You can see when I reload this page, we have only 4 tasks, and we are dynamically rendering the tasks using the map function in JavaScript. All right, and we have a component for each task. So I'm just going to kind of remove this partial for the task here too, for things to work properly. Okay, now that we have this, the next thing I want to do, which is very important, is to create some sort of data. Right, we are going to create some sort of data that we are going to be working with. It's going to just be some data that we are going to be working with, and To do that, I'm going to go to, I've created a file called seed data here, right? This seed data has a list of tasks, right? That's a list of tasks, and then there's actually a list of column too. Okay, now what I want to do is so each task has a name, ID, content, and the column it belongs to. So let's go back to our interfaces. Let's add those things. So name, there's name string, right? There's name, which is a string. There is ID. There is content. The part where we call title is supposed to be content. I told you we should just call it title for now. All right, so there's content. Sorry, and then there is column, right? This will stand for the ID of the column it belongs to. So this is supposed to be a string. All right, so with that done, that's very okay. Now we will start to go here. Instead of title, it's going to be content here. So we're going to render content. Then there's ID, there's name, there is what again? There's name, content, ID. There's also column, right? The column this task belongs to. All right, so with that done, now what we want to do is content here. Let's go back to our column component. So we say task.content. All right, so we have key, ID, content. Let's put name here. So we say task.name. All right, so the last thing is column. So I'll make this on multiple rows instead of just a single row for readability. Is readability, right? So I'm going to say column, and that should be task.column. All right, so with that done, let's go back to our home page here, and let's put in the proper information. Okay, so we're going to change this to content, right? So content, so ID, name comes next. It's going to be task 1. All right, so I'm just going to copy, put comma here. I'm just going to copy this and then paste here, and then paste here, and then paste here. All right, name. Why is it saying name is depreciated? Name is not depreciated. All right, just don't worry about this. Okay, so last thing I want to do here is I want to do column. The column this belongs to is actually column 1. Remember, all columns also have their own ID. So let's say this is column 1, right? I'm just going to kind of copy this. Instead of 0, 1, 2, let's do column 2, let's do column 3 here. All right, so it's complaining that name is depreciated. Why is name depreciated? I don't understand. All tasks should have a name. Type task 1, and it's not assignable to a string. All right, name is not supposed to be depreciated here, so I don't know exactly what this is saying, but let me fill in all the columns. Okay, So this will be column 1. So every task here belongs to column 1. All right. By default, they all belong to column 1. So let's fix this particular. Oh, great. It's not supposed to be name equal to, it's supposed to be name full column. Right? That's the, I think that's the I think that's the issue here. And after that, so type task1 any is not assignable to type string. Okay, so it's still complaining about something. I'm not supposed to pass in. Okay, I'm supposed to pass in. So I'm not supposed to pass in something like an object here, because it's not supposed to be an object, it's supposed to be a string. All right, so I'm going to remove that. All right, so we have everything clean now. From here we pass in a list of tasks. Each list of task is got rendered here, right? And each task, their ID, let's also change the ID of each task here. So ID here is task 1, ID here is task 2, ID here is task 3, ID here is task 4. All right, so we have column 1 to 3, task 1 to 4, and task 1 to 4 belongs to column 1 by default. All right, so let's reload this page. Everything looks good. Okay, now we have our seed data. Each task with its name, which is ID, which is content, right? What you have to do is just go to your helpers folder, create a file called seeddata.tsx, and then create a JavaScript object. Make sure it has tasks, which is an array, columns, which is an array, order, which is an array. So I think that's what we want right now. So task 1 to task 4 belongs to column 1 by default, and they have their content and their name. All right, so what we want to do next here is we want to dynamically render each column, right? The same way we dynamically render each task in a particular column. All right, so that's what we want to do right here. But before we do that, we want to set up our context API and make sure that our context API has the information of our seed data by default, and then we are going to be able to render our column, and then we are going to be able to render each task within a column by default. Now it looks like we are going to extend some more time for us to be able to add the drag and drop feature. So we're going to do a second part of this same part 3. We're going to do a second part of this same part 3, and that's where we're going to be creating our context API and also rendering our task and completing the drag and drop feature. So until then, I will see you in the next part. Thank you.